Told through the stories of today's leaders in finance, tech, real estate, culture, and sustainability. We share the boundless and beautiful technology of nature, where health is the new luxury and opportunities for a better future are being crafted by the second. This is Planet Gold, with your host, Enzo Di Taranto.
Welcome to this new edition of Planet Gold, my eco podcast to re-engineer the global climate agenda at the horizon 2030. Today, I have the pleasure to speak with Karen Clarkson, who is the Vice President for Sustainability of RICOH, this global tech company born in Japan many years ago, I should say, and that has been actually leading the way in the climate tech sector for decades, even though the image of the global corporation is not necessarily highlighting the progress and the work done to promote the global sustainability agenda. And that's why this conversation with Karen today is important for us and the Planet Gold audience understand better the work of RICOH, the personal leadership that Karen Clarkson brings to the company and to the sustainability community globally. Karen, welcome on this new edition of Planet Gold. How are you today?
I love that introduction and happy to be here and share the sustainability message.
Exactly. And and thank you for taking time out of your busy agenda. You are based in San Francisco, California. Is that correct?
That is correct. I was born here and raised in California and Florida. So I have oceans and forests and mountains, and as well as all the business side of it. So my sustainability started early on with just being out in nature and appreciating the earth.
Absolutely.
And look at us now.
Where we are. And you know that in my message to the Planet Gold audience, I always reiterate the intersection between sustainability and longevity. And I have a mantra that the body is the way to the planet. That is, the body is the most direct connection we have to the planet, because we ingest the food that the planet, the Mother Earth, offers to us. We drink the water that the planet produces for us. We breathe the air. So there is a direct connection between body and planet, and so between sustainability and longevity. And so your roots in both the oceans and the forests are very interesting. And Karen, what about your proximity to Silicon Valley? Has it played a role in what you do at RICOH?
It's played a huge role. I'm 20 miles from Silicon Valley, having spent most of my career with RICOH here on the West Coast. When I was in the direct sales role, I called on Silicon Valley companies for years, and being inside those organizations, supporting them from a RICOH business perspective, you feel the vibe and the energy on creating and innovating and pushing the envelope on whatever it is that speaks to your soul in terms of business. And that mentality has always been ingrained in me. Prior to coming out in San Francisco, I've always been, coloring outside the lines a little bit from from a naughty child all the way to business and trying to just move the envelope and push agendas forward. And I've been an entrepreneur inside this big global organization for years, and having roots in Silicon Valley just continues to give you confidence that, hey, this is how to get business done. This is how to move ideas forward. So it's I'm very lucky to be living here in the Bay Area.
Absolutely. Tell me, what is, I mean, in your life story and in the discovery of your inner self and your destiny on this planet, what has been the trigger for you to engage yourself in sustainability?
We spoke about having grown up here in San Francisco. I grew up hiking and camping in Yosemite, in Florida, grew up in the oceans, and I've probably camped in every coastal state in the United States. And my earliest memories, my fondest memories, are playing in the streams or swimming in the ocean, looking at the fish, snorkeling, looking at the coral reefs. And that grounds you. We talked about that earlier. Like, we're humans. We have come from Mother Earth, and you're very grounded when you're in nature, and it's calming to your soul. And that has just been part of my DNA. And as I've moved into the business world, I love business. I love making business happen. I love having profitable business, and there is a way to drive sustainable business, which improves the profitability of companies. Sustainability is not just hugging trees and that's it. Sustainable business is driving better business outcomes, making it better, improving your processes, which makes your employees happier, which brings more profits, which brings longevity. So tying it all together is just a deep rooted in how important nature is and protecting that, but then also putting business acumen on top of that and doing the right thing for the planet and for business. We all want to make money, but we want to do it smartly.
Yeah, responsibly, absolutely. And Karen, I mean, RICOH is obviously a tech company. You know, we already spoke about it. For me, the chief technology is nature. Before any machine that human beings have created. However, the engineering of technology is also something important. And, you know, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know exactly how technology is developed in a lab. However, I do understand that the machinery, the tech equipment can accelerate the implementation of the global climate agenda, from transitioning the global economy from fossil-based to renewable energies, you know, to removing plastics from the oceans. But what is in your mind, as you work, you have a senior role in a tech company, how and what tech can do to re-engineer the global agenda and achieve the sustainable development goals?
There are so many amazing technologies that are in incubation stages today, or in early startups. But if you look back at our RICOH history, we were founded in 1936. And in 1938, we started our first stance on sustainability. Our founder spoke about the people, the planet, and prosperity. And if you think about that today, going back to nature, taking care of doing business responsibly, it protects the planet, it protects the people, and everybody prospers. So that business methodology is in our DNA. And when you think about technology, and we'll think of RICOH technology first, all of our manufacturing, we started our first green environmental department in 1976. 1976, that's unheard of. And those manufacturing processes have just continued to progress and use more recycled materials, zero waste to landfill, et cetera. So having come from this manufacturing background, I look at other technologies out in the world today supporting climate and responsible business, and there are so many of them. And if you think of how to get to the masses, because the faster everyone sings from the same sheet of music, and the faster everyone starts employing techniques and technology to improve their lives as well as improving the planet, that's sustainable business, sustainable function, sustainable life. So some of those technologies, my favorite one, which would change the building industry overnight, is instead of planting trees, which is still an awesome way to take carbon out, it takes a while. I was speaking with a professor at University of Buenos Aires who's looking at biomass. So you take a 3 square meter box with algae of sorts, and you put it on a roof, or you put it in next to the Amazon, the depleting forest, and in 6 months you have flora and fauna that are growing at a faster rate than if you had just tried to replant. So imagine if you take this 3 square meter box of algae and put it on every roof, in every house, on every skyscraper all over the world. Like that's like building ingenuity. And we see like green walls and green roofs, but we don't see enough of them. And so that has global effects. There's paint, light paint, white paint that reflects, and it reduces the heat of the earth. Imagine if the whole world looked like Greece, right? All white buildings. The drastic times, drastic measures. What if everyone had to go out and paint their houses a different color, a lighter color? Little things like that. There's technology there's satellites that can go down onto a small rice paddy, and 60% of farming is small farms. And most of these farmers in other countries are females, women. So you can use carbon capture and pay back. A small rice farmer in Indonesia is unaware that there's a satellite pulling CO2 out of her farm, and it goes through blockchain technology, and then she comes back and has a percentage of that, and she can now provide more for her family. That's cool technology. But so much technology like this are in startups and incubators, and no one yet has been able to do the next unicorn in sustainable business. But ideas like that affect the world instantaneously, it just gets me so excited. Like that's cool. That's game changing. And how do we go to market with that and like make that happen?
Yeah. No, that's amazing. You know, that I feel so honored and glad today to have the opportunity to speak with you, because I tell you why. You know that I practiced martial arts since I was a child. And one of the first things that you learn when you practice Japanese martial arts are the Taoism and the Shintoism as a philosophical basis of martial arts. And so obviously the Shinto philosophy, as you mentioned, is composed of these 3 Ps: people, planet prosperity. And I have another approach to accelerate the sustainability revolution today that is also composed of 3 Ps and actually can be even added to 4 Ps, which is the traditional public-private partnership. And then you can add private-public-people partnership, right? The reason why I'm saying that, because you mentioned that there are existing technologies that can really speed up this revolution. However, what is needed for that to happen is the policy formulation and implementation, and that comes from the public sector. So the private sector can generate the technology, but unless the public sector finances and even enforces its implementation, that change, that swift, paradigm shift will not happen. And so, for instance, in Europe, this is actually happening very fast because the European Union and the national governments are pouring billions of dollars in the economy to finance for instance, the solar generation power in the residential houses, in the public buildings. They are obliging and forcing these new regulations. In the United States, there is a lot of progress as well in this sector. So it's interesting to use both the Shinto 3 Ps with this public-private partnership sector and see how they synergize to go faster. But I know that RICOH has been also present at COP28 in Dubai. Is that right?
That is correct. Our chairman of the board is passionate about sustainability, and he led a Japanese cohort of 128 businesses in Japan, leading that and representing the country of Japan at COP28, not necessarily RICOH only, but 128 organizations, because the Japanese take sustainability extremely seriously. As you spoke about, it's rooted in thousands of years of practice of doing the right thing and living harmoniously with the planet. And so he was at COP28. He spoke at Reuters Next last year around sustainability, and being a manufacturer, when you think of our core products, back in the day, where we're making cameras and multifunctional devices, those devices were like the smartphone of the 70s and 80s. No business had one, and everybody needed one. And today, as that technology has changed and morphed, it's just showing the world that you can still have manufacturing that's done sustainably. And many of the Japanese companies are manufacturing companies. Think of Sony, etc. And so there is, with the resurgence of manufacturing in other countries, but doing it correctly and correctly meaning more sustainable is what Japan's really focused to.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, and obviously, both societies and corporations are made of people. So it's the drive of the individuals that then makes the organization relevant or not. And in this respect, I would like to ask you, Karen, if you would kind of describe how your job or your contribution to RICOH impacts the life of individuals, of, you know, a mother or a teacher or a student, to understand and speed up this transition towards green and blue. How would you describe that from a personal perspective?
So my role, I wear a few hats at RICOH. I have go-to-market strategy, strategic partnerships, and sustainability, and there's an intersection there where go-to-market is sales. I sales in my DNA. I know how to go make it happen and generate, take strategy to execution to revenue generation and profitable revenue pretty quick. So that's grounded in my DNA. But how do you take new innovative business and support the people? I'm all about my customers, and my customers are people. And how do we positively impact our customers' lives? And we RICOH support 12 of the 17 SDGs. So creativity from work, etc. And when you think of our business on business workflow, business process optimization, and digital workspaces, those are our two pillars of our company. And if you think of digital workspaces, think of everything inside the office, whether it's your home office or your small office or your huge global office. All of the technology inside that office, from reception, check-in remotely, to smart meeting rooms, to different technology throughout the building, conference rooms, that impacts humans, and that impacts anyone doing business better, faster, stronger, easier. So being able to work at home, being able to still be on a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams call, still being able to manage family life, makes it easier. Technology makes our jobs easier. And with the advent of Gen AI, it's accelerating that, and being able to, like, what's next? I want my robot to come and do the laundry while I'm on 8 hours of Zoom calls or team calls all day. And I want a drone to deliver my dinner. I don't want it to come in Uber Eats or whatever my delivery service is. So a lot of that technology, that lens technology, we sell and resell to other manufacturers outside of our core business. And then if you think of the business process optimization side of our business and how that impacts the humans, and I look at two different personas. One is, if I'm a CFO or a CEO, I want my goal is to have all my employees be happy, be loyal, love coming into work, and me as a CEO being able to give my employees the tools to make their jobs easier. That's what any CEO, any CFO would want. But how do you do that with sustainable business without it being a dirty word? And that's the perception I would love to change, because sustainable business does not mean you're a tree hugger. It means you are doing the right thing and using the latest technology to drive better business outcomes, whether it's lowering your electricity bills, whether it's using the cloud versus someone else's cloud versus your own. That reduces electricity. Improving workflows where I don't need 10 people entering data in. I can use technology and imaging and pulling metadata out with software to upload into SAP systems or Oracle systems, improving the process so the people I hire are doing less manual work and doing, I've hired a financial analyst, but they're doing financial data entry. Why? Because my processes are broken. Why? Because I have a company that's been around for a long time, and it takes a while to generate that budgetary number to make huge wholesale changes. So being a leader of organizations, you want to be able to understand that sustainable business creates better outcomes for your employees. It creates more profit for you as a company because you're doing things better, faster. And that moves business forward. And then you have all the latest technology that's coming in at a ferocious pace, and you've got to keep up with it. But all of that is pushing us to an uncomfortable, but I think fantastic spot in the market where we're at the precipice of this huge technology change that is coming so fast. And hang on to your seats, because it's going to get exciting, but it's going to explode business, and it's going to make employees' lives so much better, and it should make your C-suite coffers bigger and with more profit because you're doing business the right way. And to me, that's sustainable business. Business workflows is sustainable business. Improving business workflows is sustainable business. And nothing in there did I speak about politics or any of the negative words that come along with it. It's if you are a leader of a business, you want to have the best, most fabulous business ever. So why wouldn't you try to strive for that?
True. Well, you mentioned politics, but with all the negative resonance of the term for some people at least, but I must say that, for instance, the policies and the politics of former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger in California has hugely pushed the climate agenda forward. And so this goes back to what I said earlier, that that the PPP of public-private partnership is key to scale up the sustainable businesses that you are speaking about. And so that's another important thing. But you also mentioned, Karen, AI. And once again, I'm not an expert. I'm still trying to understand the implications of AI on the global climate agenda and how we can capitalize it to re-engineer, as you say, processes, workflows, and so on. But in your knowledge and your experience, how AI you think will be useful to the sustainability dynamics moving forward?
So if you think of AI as a tool, AI is a tool that helps in the background of engineering, of creating, manufacturing things, processes, components, whatever it is. It is a tool. It's a super, super, super powerful tool. And it can be, there's positive and negative sides to it. So I'm all about making sure that there's governance around how one uses AI. But if you think of just classic engineering and creating, AI is in the background of everything. I was at an incubation lab yesterday advising some early startups, and AI is in everything they do. And on their websites, it was led by AI, led by AI. And I said, gang, your business is not AI. Your business is whatever you're trying to solve. And it's just, AI, and it's just, it's, you use AI, just like in the past, we used to use,
whatever.
Yeah, whatever it was. So there's a hype about it, and it's in the high end of the hype cycle. Like, everyone needs AI. What's AI? But it's a tool, and it's been around for a long time. It's the generative AI that's with machine learning, where you think of the Terminator movie, where it has it's a mind of its own. Like, that's out there now. But how do we use it in a right way? So going back to your question of how do you use AI inside of sustainable business practice to solve the climate crisis, and I put it in two categories. One is just responsible business. Is everybody doing the best they can from creating and leading responsible business? Right. And then the second is, let's focus on the climate tech. And climate tech, I put it under a huge umbrella of the oceans, of the wind, solar, the energy, the major components, agriculture. But all of that technology has AI components to it. And if you think of reporting, some of the reporting metrics that are out there for businesses to use to provide scope 1, scope 2, or scope 3 reporting uses AI, because the more data that businesses are putting into a global sustainability platform, those companies are using AI to find more trends and more data points and analytics on, hey, most customers in this industry use these types of things, processes, tools, whatever it is. So therefore, we know that the retail industry, this is what a retail industry looks like from a sustainable business or a not sustainable business, just based on reporting. So there's AI in basic global sustainability reports, and then there's some of the businesses that I talked about, like how do you use AI to measure and monitor some of the satellites pulling CO2 out of the air. Like, all of that ties into it. So I would just chalk it up to every startup or small business that's trying to break into the sustainable climate tech market should have AI as just part of their building blocks.
Yeah.
And one idea, when I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking how I can solve the world, save the world, I have this idea of in the United States, we have so many large shopping malls that are vacant now because of COVID, because online shopping, etc. And we also have food insecurities. Malls are typically in hugely populated, dense areas. And some of these malls can be in areas where people don't get great California vegetables 365 days a year, where we in California are lucky to have that. But how about you take a mall that's empty or only has one store left at it, and you turn that mall into vertical farms. Vertical farms, you're using AI to make sure that all the lettuce is growing correctly, that there's enough water, you're using sensors, making sure there's nothing bad getting in there. But you have now created a huge vertical farm inside a huge edifice inside downtown, wherever, and you are now creating food for the masses, and healthy food. Because you go back to the people and health and longevity, it all ties in. If I have an underserved community that can't get fresh fruits and vegetables, how are they going to be healthy? So it just, my brain just keeps going and going and going. But AI would be grounded in that, in some of those technologies, right?
Absolutely. And you know that we are developing with this Canadian company, Rather Tech, an integrated solution for disaster risk reduction. particularly in the islands. You know, I was head of office of the United Nations Humanitarian Coordination Office in the Caribbean. And, you know, even 10 years ago, there was nothing, you know, in terms of predicting, you know, apart from the satellite warnings and things like that. But nowadays, if you imagine, for instance, the interaction between drones and AI modeling, I mean, you can alert populations well in advance. You can provide much more precise data for policy making and you know, preparedness and response. And once again, I'm not an engineer, but what I see is that both drones and AI are very low cost. You know, I mean, you can deploy 100 drones for nothing. I mean, and then you get all this huge amount of data 24/7, and you can much better prepare countries and communities to, you know, for you know, hurricanes or flooding or any of this natural disasters. So we have, from the Dominican Republic and from the Caribbean, we have this global platform, including so far 12 islands in the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and trying to innovate, you know, the way especially islands prepare and respond to natural disasters. And, you know, I think that this interaction between drones and AI will be so powerful. But we need to train people. I mean, this, you know, the role of universities, I spoke about governments, but, you know, universities have to prepare this new generation of, you know, labor force that understands how to apply these new technologies. Otherwise, it cannot be an elite thing. It must be massive, you know. And so that, I mean, the really creativity is the only limit to the application of all this.
So all our kids that are gamers, they can now become the drone operators as the adults, because they already know how to.
Definitely. And so you think that RICOH is, I mean, under your leadership in the Americas, is strengthening its role in the sustainability space and industry, climate tech? I mean, how do you see that moving forward?
Absolutely is it's, as I said earlier, it's part of our DNA. And if you think of Japanese business culture and Japanese culture, it's very different than American culture. The Japanese are very reserved, and the RICOH Corporation is revered in Japan. And in America, we're all about banging our chests. Hey, look at me, look how great I am. You know, billboards in Times Square advertising this. And, you know, the Japanese culture looks at us askew like, that's not us, right? But it's just different cultures. So one thing that I absolutely love about RICOH is its 80-year history of sustainability, and not just talking about it, but doing it. As I mentioned earlier, in 1976, we started our first sustainability department, and we have 2030, 2040, 2050 goals for all of our manufacturing and our manufacturing facilities globally to be 100% renewable, continue on zero waste to landfill, recycled materials. Many of our products are between 40 and 60% recycled materials. So stemming from that, how do I personally, to your question, you know, drive the sustainability message forward inside of RICOH North America, where my responsibility lies. So connecting all of our regions is one, and giving awareness internally as well. It's not just a separate department. It's not just an add-on, but it's part of our business processes. When we design and manufacture or partner with a business partner, it's what business problem are we solving? How does it support the UN SDGs? How does it support sustainable, responsible business? How is it creating an ROI for the decision maker? How is it making employees' lives easier, et cetera? It's part of the conversation. It's not an afterthought. So driving that message forward inside of our marketing efforts, I report to our CMO, Lauren Salata, driving those marketing efforts from top of funnel, from product portfolio, all the way through the ecosystem to the sales teams. The sales teams will start leading with sustainable conversations, and they shouldn't be afraid of it, because it's not hard to have a sustainable business conversation. It's just a smart, intelligent way to do business. So that's one area of educating. The other area is we're in 200 countries, making sure that we are all communicating, and our global teaming organization, representing each of our regions, and then our world headquarters, we communicate on a monthly basis. And having, when you think of sustainability and the E, the S, and the G, so for the environment, the social, and the governance, environmental is my team. Social is inside a woman I work with, Christina Mora, who's in charge of our global supply chain and diversity. And then Michael Jones, who's our VP of HR, is fiercely focused on diversity, and they report into our global deputy, Donna Venable, for supply chain and HR diversity practices. So we work really closely together. I speak with them almost on a weekly basis. And then on governance, you have the legal side of it, making sure we're in compliance with the new rules coming out. So Chris Shiraki is my buddy over on the legal side. So the three of us, the E, the S, and the G teams all communicate, and that's imperative. And that's one thing Jake spoke about at Reuters Next, is how important that is for any organization to be successful. You can't be siloed. And we know businesses love silos. Everybody loves their kingdom. But breaking out of those silos to do the right thing for the planet, for your business, is huge. So those are huge, important hurdles to have. Educating your entire 20,000 population in North America, from a first day employee all the way up to the CEO and everybody in between, understanding what sustainability means to the business. So that's one, training, etc. But then when you take some of our customers, especially on the West Coast, are in industries like retail that are fiercely focused, because they're B2B2C. They have constituents and shareholders that are very focused, and forcing some of these companies to be focused to sustainability, banking, financial services. These customers are pushing us, saying, hey, we want your scope 3 reporting. So we've done something very innovative, and something I'm extremely proud of with our team. What we created was creating that scope 3 reporting on not only our hardware side of the business that we've been providing for years on emissions and what that means, and how each year or each contract cycle we can provide lower cost of emissions hardware, but maybe a quarter of the contract is hardware and the rest is services, and the customers want that same type of reporting. So we partnered with a company to provide that reporting, and it ties into all the global methodologies, all the approved standards. And we're leading our industry and providing scope 3 reporting. And a lot of people don't even know what scope 3 reporting is. And it's your supply chain, your you as an organization, your supply chain. And customers are eating that up. They're thrilled because now they are checking off one of the many boxes of their multiple vendors that they're going to have to provide scope 3 reporting on. And I think that's what keeps a lot of businesses awake at night, because they don't know what scope 3 means and they pull the covers over their head. But Gavin Newsom, our governor of California, he's mandating that businesses in the United States that do $1 billion a year, it doesn't matter in California or not, have to report to California their scope 1 and 2, and then eventually their scope 3 by January of 25. And by 26, there starts to be the little carrot and the stick, where there's compliance and fines if you're not compliant. And that is just forcing the hand of businesses. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but if you don't have rules and regulations and laws around it, as you said, when you don't have the government entities mandating these changes, no one's going to do it. Nobody likes to clean their room, right? Go back to when you were 5. Nobody likes cleaning their room. Nobody likes organizing except me. I'm a closet organizer, but nobody likes to organize their house. And you take that same mentality into the business world. Nobody wants to do anything that's tough and hard and different. So governments have to put these mandates in. And I'm so proud of Gavin Newsom
the money as well,
demanding it.
Yeah.
And because it's going to start, and it's not hard. All it is, guys, is uploading some of your financial reporting that you disclose anyway because you're a Fortune 500 into a report to say, here's how sustainable or not sustainable we are. And then I can work with someone like RICOH to help drive more sustainable business outcomes, workflows.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, it's not hard. It's just you have to like spend 5 minutes thinking about it and realizing, oh, I just have to do X, Y, and Z. Okay.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting and getting lawsuits and hiding behind it and calling everyone tree huggers and all the negative side. It doesn't have to be negative. Like you can I feel like I'm a sustainable capitalist. You can I'm a sales girl. I love making money. I love making my customers happy, and you can do both while still driving profitable outcomes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's new to the economy. I mean, so far people had to not necessarily providing valuable services to make money, but now you can do good and make money at the same time. It's probably the first time in the history of humanity that there are such opportunities to do good to the planet, to people, to everything. But Karen, so far we spoke, about this concept of seeing the planet through the body and how sustainability and longevity intersect. Also, the importance of the RICOH corporation that is based on the Japanese philosophy of Shinto. Once again, people, planet, prosperity, the role of the governments, and how RICOH has been leading or innovating the climate tech industry since decades now. And you mentioned the concepts of AI, Gen AI, machine learning, how to innovate the climate tech industry with these new tools. But in the end, there are many things we can do and many things we cannot yet do now. And so I would like to, and this is a question I make to all my guests on the Planet Gold Eco podcast, because remember, my objective is to contribute to re-engineer the global climate agenda, for instance, by innovating the narrative. I never mentioned the word climate change. I never mentioned the term climate crisis. I mean, I try to always present the planet as an opportunity, not as a problem, you see? And I think that this re-engineering effort is, requires some drastic changes, some paradigm shifts. And certainly you are one of those who have already internalized and developed already this new language, this new mindset, looking at sustainability as a business opportunity, as you say, rather than a cost, because you have to, present a report, or you have to change plastic forks into wooden forks that cost more money. So you have to increase the prices and eventually, reduce your share of market. But it's not like that. Once again, because technology allows today to produce things at much lower cost and massify the distribution. But if you would have a magic wand and you would have no limitations, no financial limitations, human resources, laws, regulations, and procedures, the world would be, at your service. What would you do that quick, fast, crucial change that you would implement to move the global climate agenda forward fast?
My magic wand. How do you know I don't have one?
I know that you have one. That's why I'm asking you.
So I'm going to approach it in two ways. Because there's the ultimate goal of, wouldn't it be great if we had drones and flying cars delivering everything, which is sustainable business. That's also innovative business. And can you mask doing good for the environment and the world with cool technology? I think you can. But I'm going to take a more doable magic wand, because there's 3+ billion people in the world. Every single person needs to do their part. And if every single person every day, starting today, does one small step towards doing something more sustainable, it will have massive impacts. Because right now there's such a small percentage of the world and the population that recycles. When I go to other urban areas and affluent areas, they don't have 3 different recycling bins. We have compost bins, we have recycling, and then we have regular trash. Many states and cities don't even have that. So how do we make it easy for humans to consume things in their lives that are more sustainable? And if you think about changing the face of the planet, doing it through the masses is the fastest way to do it. And providing, if you are in an impoverished city or country, where you still might have to walk for water or chop down trees to get wood to build a fire to cook for your family, they're not thinking about painting their house white to reduce the heat, or putting moss on their house to reduce it. They're in survival mode. So how do you wave that magic wand and help people who are in survival mode and subsistence mode with sustainable outcomes? Can you bring drones in? Can drones come in and deliver water? Can drones come in and deliver an alternate heat source than chopping down trees? So how do you support those individuals? And then all the way up to the wealthiest people in the world and everything in between. Are you buying aluminum versus plastic? Are you buying glass versus plastic? basic things like that. And then all the way up to, to what I talked about earlier, have vertical farms to bring health, have drones delivering things, flying cars, that reduce emissions, walking. Let's not forget how easy it is to walk.
Yes.
To
use the body.
Europeans do it better than us. It's like, oh, my grocery store is a mile. Let me get in my car and drive there.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I just think the magic wand is how do we deploy the cool technology in the incubators and the startups now, get their ideas out there, and then how do you have the people in the entire world do small little things every day to think sustainable? So wave the magic wand and you have the sustainability button that goes off every day, like do something sustainable, right? Shut off the light, don't leave the water running. I mean, basic things that we do. So that would be my vision. I took big, small, and in between.
Everything. You are holistic. But
big
I think,
girl.
No, Karen, I think that this magic wand is already in action because this is one of the things that I'm doing. I'm compiling all signs of that as humanity, we are on the right path, you see. We mentioned before the European Union, the US administrations have done a lot as well. So there are signs of humanity as a whole having this paradigm shift, as you say, in the small things, at the community level, individual level, community level, national levels, multinational levels. So I think that we are in the right way, and technology can really speed up this process, But it was a very, very pleasant and inspiring conversation, Karen. And I hope that, our project to do this activation on climate tech during the United Nations General Assembly Week in New York in September can also be the opportunity to, share some of these ideas with a specialized audience.
Absolutely.
And also, take decisions in that direction, right? And this is our job to do that.
Yeah, I think the stats, it's going to take $5 trillion to reverse climate change. And you look at some of the big family funds and some of the wealthiest individuals in the world that are part of some of these private funding sources, and being able to, I mean, nobody wants to lose money, but when you have an extra couple of billion lying around that you don't need to get an ROI on to invest in some of these smaller companies, to do that, to launch it and have the technology and the tools, the AI tools, the ML, machine learning behind it to launch that faster is, my hat's off to those wealthy families and organizations that are doing that and doing their part, because it's going to take a lot of resources from financial, as well as the human mind, as well as heart set, mindset, skill set, and how do you go to market with it? Like, how do you make it happen, right? How do you launch it?
Yeah.
But that's what I love.
Money is not a problem anymore. Because you may know at COP26, the biggest financial corporations from Deutsche Bank, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Banco Intesa, Union de Banque Suisse, the biggest, they all created this net zero banking alliance. And they committed $130 trillion to finance the transition of the global economy from fossil-based to renewable energies. So money is not a problem anymore, at least on paper, because these pledges, These pledges are political pledges. Now we have to make them accountable that, as you say, if a solid startup presents a request for credit, for a loan to one of these banks, they are almost obliged to
do it.
that money. Exactly. So that's why I'm saying there are a lot of signs that things are moving in the right direction. Obviously, it's a process. There are huge economic interests at play. Even there, I see, when I was in Dubai in December, I spoke with the president of COP28, Sultan Al Jaber, and the United Arab Emirates, despite being one of the most producing oil producing countries in the world, they are also the major investors in solar and renewable energies. They understand, they see the future, they are preparing themselves, their economies to the future. So, this process is irreversible. There can be forces that, can slow it down. But, the humanity is already on this new path that is very encouraging. And
it is.
Thank you again, Karen, for your knowledge, your inspiration, your commitment. I know that you also, have your how can I say that, obstacles in what you do. But it's fine. It's normal. We are sustainable warriors, as I say. So
exactly.
we are
obstacles
the new
bring
samurai.
opportunity.
The new samurais of sustainability. That's what we are, exactly. And so, armed with our katana, I want to thank you again, Karen, also on behalf of the Planet Gold audience, this community of climate like-minded individuals and entities. Thank you again for your work at RICOH. What you do, on a personal basis, and looking forward to continuing our partnership in a very successful way.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I totally appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Best wishes.
All right. Thanks, Enzo. Bye.